Morning, how are you this morning? It's Cristo here on Talk TV. We're live from the Talk Radio studio. Cost of living crisis has made many of the front pages this morning. Inflation set to hit 11% according to the Bank of England. Interest rates going up here. Interest rates having gone up in the States. Energy prices higher than ever. Fuel prices through the roof. Strikes right, left and centre. You cannot get anywhere through an airport without having to wait for hours and hours. Tax rises on the agenda as well. Michael Gove confirming no tax cuts for you for the next 2 years. Dr. Roger Gewolb, CEO of Fair Money, have you in your entire career as an economist, someone who is an expert on these matters, heard such a grim list?
What a litany. Good morning, Cristo.
Morning.
Yeah, I think I probably have. I think there have been similar situations in the past, but dealing with the present, it's pretty terrible. And there's so many easy fixes, so many easy solutions for the government to make. It's just astonishing they don't make them.
What are those easy solutions? And can you discuss that in the context of why a tax cut wouldn't be appropriate?
I think there are good arguments, both sides, about tax cuts. I'd rather focus on VAT. As I've said earlier, on VAT, 30% of the price of a liter of petrol, roughly, is VAT. And that VAT is calculated not only on the actual petrol or diesel, but on the government tax of some 50+% on that petrol and diesel. We're paying tax on tax.
Yeah, we're paying tax on the fuel duty that is on there as well. So we pay VAT on the duty, and we also are paying it using money we've already been taxed on through our income.
So it's a triple hit, as you've said before. Absolutely. It's ridiculous. Why the government can't let that go for 6 months just for people to ease up, or at least during this summer of huge discontent when we are going to have strike after strikes. I've had meetings canceled on Monday by people saying that they are making their way to London for meetings, but they've now canceled them and they're going on to Zoom because, and I'm not laying accusations at anybody, I'm just repeating what I've been told by people who've canceled meetings with me, that they have been told there are going to be wildcat strikes on Monday, which is not a strike day, in order to make the Tuesday strikes even more effective.
I'm exactly the same issue. I'm doing a TV show on Monday morning. I'm doing the Vine show on Channel 5, and they are preparing to get people there for far more time because they are worried that these there will be strikes on this unofficial strike day. Okay, here's my plan, Dr. Roger, right? And I don't understand why, if I was Chancellor, this couldn't be enacted, but tell me what's wrong with this, right? This is what I would do. I'd raise the income tax threshold, not dramatically, but just to take more people at the lowest paid for society out of income tax. I would cut the VAT on fuel. I would remove the VAT from energy bills, and I would have made the energy companies with the windfall tax also pay the green levy so that people who are paying their energy bills don't pay those, but the green levy is still paid by the energy companies. Now, none of that is going to amount to an absolute fortune, but those three measures might well just help those people who are the lowest paid in society. Why can't that happen?
Lord knows. There's been no explanation given.
So do you think that would be a credible plan, though, to at least give people immediate help now? More money in the pocket for people in the lowest paid, and help for everyone else on their energy and their fuel? Well,
Cristo, absolutely. I think that's a very good plan. And as you say, none of them are, major nuclear effects. But there's no reason it shouldn't happen. There's been no explanation why it's not happening. But I think there are two things that are far more important than that and carry a lot more weight. I think the first thing is that as Boris is already starting to fight with Rishi Sunak, the swinging increase in corporation tax from 19 to 25% should be deferred. But to me, the most important thing that I question is why has the Bank of England chosen to raise interest rates at this time?
Inflation, surely. I mean, the argument is that that's the only thing by sort of strangling the supply of money on interest rates, by you having to pay higher, that it's going to get inflation under control. Why is that not logical?
Well, because there are actually two kinds of inflation. I'm sure there are many, many people far smarter than I in the Treasury and in the government who are going to argue otherwise. But there are two kinds of inflation, if I can explain. The first kind of inflation is called demand pull inflation. That's the kind of inflation where, hey, it's a great time. Everybody's making money. Everybody's spending. Everybody's going on holiday. Restaurants, hospitality is booming. Bankers' bonuses are huge, and expensive properties, the prices are being driven up, and property prices are rising, and everybody's moving and buying. And ladies who lunch, I shouldn't be politically incorrect, ladies, gentlemen, and gender-neutral people who lunch can't show up with the same Prada bag twice, so they've got to have another one. Everybody's buying everything, and supply is somewhat strained, because demand is so great that there isn't enough to keep up with. The prices keep going up. If you've got the money, you can have all the shiny, beautiful, lovely things you want. The second kind of inflation, the first one, as I say, is demand pull. The second one is cost push. And that's the kind of inflation that we're in here now in the UK. That's where prices are pushed up by factors that are unrelated to our purchasing. In fact, people are cutting back all over the place. People are going without meals. People are not spending. It's not spending that's driving that inflation. It's the cost of raw materials. It's wheat. It's the war in Ukraine exacerbating everything. It's all the things you just mentioned, fuel, energy, everything rocketing up for all kinds of different reasons that are unrelated to consumer demand increasing.
Well, then how do you get that kind of inflation under control?
Well, you don't get it under control by raising interest rates.
But how do you then? What do you do to get cost push inflation under control?
It's very, very difficult. There are all sorts of different ways and different things, but they don't. The point that I want to make here is what you don't do is that when you need to borrow in order to survive, you don't raise the cost of that borrowing. You don't increase people's mortgages at a time when they can ill afford it. We have jumped on the bandwagon with many other countries in raising interest rates at this time, essentially because the Federal Reserve, the Fed, the United States, raised interest rates. Now, their situation is different. As of a week or two ago, they were saying, we're not going to go into recession. Things are actually improving in this area, that area, et cetera, et cetera. Not the same thing here. Okay. So we are kind of lemming-like, jumping on the bandwagon and doing what many economists would say is the worst possible thing we could do. And here's my point. There has been no explanation of this. Why have they not said, look, we know we're in cost push inflation, but...
Okay, just one final thing before we've got to go, though. The suspicious side of me, the cynical side of me, says, well, look, the government's making a fortune here. The fuel duty, the VAT on energy, that is the corporation tax going up. The government is squeezing us because they are making an absolute fortune. And is that because they then, in a year's time, maybe 18 months with an election on the horizon, they'll say, well, here you go. Here's your fuel duty, here's your VAT cut, here's everything, and we can pay for it because we've squeezed the life out of you for the last 18 months?
Good question. I personally wouldn't hold my breath, Cristo. I think the government would say that...
Well, they'll have an election to win at that point, though, you see.
At the same time, I think that their explanation will be that they have got future generations that they are going to saddle with so much debt that they won't be able to breathe, and that's why they're doing what they're doing now. Now, whether that's the case or not, or they will just print some more money in the future, nobody knows. But I wouldn't count on them reducing everything in 18 months.
Oh, God, that's even more depressing. That was what I was hoping for. Okay, Dr. Roger G. Wolb, thank you, I think. Not the happiest conversation you and I have had, but nice to have your company this morning. That's nearly it from me, but what a treat you've got.